Let's take a couple of moments and we'll walk through the audio settings menu on Pioneer's FH-X731BT. Now be sure to note that these are the audio settings for the standard mode, and there's a separate video for the audio settings in network mode. So if you have your system set up in network mode, be sure to check out the audio settings for network mode video. Even though your particular in-dash receiver may or may not have a CD slot across the top like this one, the on-screen and button operation is identical for the following Pioneer models: FH-X730BS, FH-X731BT, FH-X830BHS, and MVH-X690BS. Right now we're on the auxiliary source. So we'll press in on the volume control, and we want to scroll along here until we find the audio menu. Here's the audio menu, and we'll press enter. And we start off here with the EQ settings. Now there's a full EQ settings video. If you want to learn a little bit more about using the EQ, check out the full EQ video. We'll roll over to the next setting here, which is our fader control. And remember, this is the audio settings menu for the standard mode, and in the standard mode you get a fader control. So we'll press enter here, and this will allow us to fade front and rear with the system. So once you've made your adjustments there, we can go back and roll over to the next setting, which is our balance control, and we'll press enter. And here we can balance from right to left, and we'll make our settings there, and we can go back. Next up is the subwoofer control, and right now the subwoofer is switched on. And when we roll over to the next setting, we have our subwoofer output, which is normal or reverse phase. Let me go back here to subwoofer on, and I'm going to switch the subwoofer off. Now when I roll over to the next setting, we go directly to speaker level. There is no control there for the subwoofer phase, normal or reverse. So in order to have that control, we have to switch the subwoofer on, and then the next setting over is our subwoofer phase, normal or reverse phase. For right now, I'm going to leave that on the normal phase, but in your vehicle, you should check both of these settings, normal and reverse. One may sound much better than the other. Let's roll over to the next setting now, which is our speaker level. Now in this system, we have 3 sets of RCA outputs, and it's set up in standard mode, so they are front output, rear output, and subwoofer output. So we'll enter into this. And here we can adjust the audio output for the front left speaker. This is the front right speaker. Next is the rear left speaker, and then rear right speaker, and then the subwoofer output. So we have an independent volume control, an independent output control for each speaker in the system. Both of the front speakers, both of the rear, and the subwoofer output. To make an adjustment to any of them, press in on the volume control. And here we can boost or cut that output. Now for best audio quality, be sure to set each of these at 0 or lower, because when you set them at 0 or lower, then you can turn up your master volume control without fear of distortion. So for right now, I'm going to set my front left output at a -2, and we will press in on the volume control, and I will set my front right output to a -1. And when I'm done making those adjustments, I can go back and we'll roll over to the next setting, which is our crossover settings for each of those speakers as well. So we'll press in on this, and here we have our front crossover, we have the rear crossover, and we have the subwoofer crossover. So we'll open up the crossover for the front outputs, and if we turn this back, the crossover is switched off, and we have full range output to our front outputs, full range. If we switch it on, we switch on a high pass filter, and we can change the high pass filter crossover from 50 Hertz all the way up to 200 Hertz. And once you've chosen a crossover point for your high pass filter, press in on the volume control again, and you can choose a slope for the high pass filter: 6, 12, 18, or 24 dB per octave at any given crossover point. Now let's go back. That was the front crossover. We can do the exact same thing for the rear crossover, and we have the exact same settings for the rear crossover that are available, and they are independent of the front crossovers. and then we'll roll over to the subwoofer setting here and press enter. Subwoofer is a low pass filter, and we'll press enter here, and we can choose to switch the low pass filter off, or we can switch it on right here, and we can choose a crossover point for the low pass filter: 50, 63, 80, 100, 125, 160, and 200 hertz. So we'll turn this back to 80 hertz for right now, and we'll press enter, and we can choose the slope of the crossover for the subwoofer from 6, 12, 18, or 24 dB per octave at any given crossover point. And again, all crossover points are independent from one another, and slopes are independent from one another. Once you've made your crossover settings for front, rear, and subwoofer output, we'll go back and roll over to the next setting, which is our listening position, and we'll open that. Right now the listening position is switched off. We can roll in and focus the image to the front left, or the driver's side, the front right, the passenger's side, or both front speakers, and all speakers in the system. For right now, we're going to leave the listening position set to the front left, or the driver's side. And we'll go back. We'll roll over to the next setting, which is our time alignment settings. And for more information about the time alignment settings, be sure to check out the time alignment video. And we'll roll over to the next setting, which is where we can save the settings that we've been working on. If I press enter here and confirm yes, I want to save those settings. Once you've saved your settings, you can roll over to the next setting, which is where you can load the settings. Once you've made a save to the settings, you can go back and make some adjustments. If you don't like the adjustments you've made, you can come right back here and reload the settings that you've already created. We'll roll over to the next one, which is our bass boost output. Here we can add a little more bottom into the system if we want to, or roll it back out. And we'll roll over to the next setting, which is our loudness control. And right now the loudness is switched off. We have settings for low, mid, and high on loudness. Touch it one more time, and loudness is switched off. Loudness is a control to help compensate at low volumes and give you better audio quality. So let's roll over to the next setting. This is our auto level control. And auto level control will attempt to control the volume when you change between sources and between different stored audio files. So this is the level control. We can press here. Right now it's switched off. We have mode 1 and mode 2. Roll over one more time to switch it off again. And again, the auto level control will help to control the volume between sources and between different audio file types. Now let's roll over to the next setting, which is SLA, or Source Level Adjuster. Source Level Adjuster will allow us to make the volume of any given source a little louder or a little quieter as compared to FM. So if you'll recall, when we started this video, the source was auxiliary input. And the SLA option will allow us to make the auxiliary input a little louder or a little quieter as compared to FM. So if you're on the FM source, you won't see SLA because it's not available to make an adjustment. All sources are compared to FM. But the CD source, USB source, auxiliary, Bluetooth audio, all of those will have an SLA adjustment that you can make that particular source a little louder or a little quieter as compared to FM. When you're done making your adjustment, you can press the go back button and roll over to the next setting, which is, this takes us right back to our EQ settings. When you're done making your audio adjustments, we'll press the band button to escape.